6, that will probably become 5. Here to tell us the tale of the tape, LBC's political editor with his abacus out. The abacus, I said. Theo Musher, Theo, good morning.
It will be fine by the end of the day, or perhaps fewer if we have people dropping out. The momentum this morning appears to be with Penny Mordaunt. The former Navy reservist came a strong second last night, winning 67 votes to Rishi Sunak's 88. But after a launch in Westminster in the morning that was widely praised, and a poll that shows that she beats all the other candidates with Tory members, it appears that Mordaunt is now the one to be stopped.
I think our party has lost its sense of self. If I can compare it to being in the Glastonbury audience when Paul McCartney was playing his set.
In 300 yards at Huntercombe roundabout, take the first exit onto Huntercombe Spur heading to M4, London.
Small state, personal responsibility. Yes. We need to get back to that because we've got some really serious challenges ahead.
She missed the get back. She should have punched the words, we need to get back to that. Theo Usher continues.
One of the outside contenders that nobody was talking about for communications advice from Ferrari Communications Advice. Yes, one of the contenders that nobody was talking about at the beginning of the race, of course, is the Equalities Minister, Kemi Badenoch. She scored 40 votes last night.
I'm just going to interrupt because you know him and I know Trevor Kavanagh.
Exit the roundabout onto Huntercombe Spur.
He's in the indeed, we must all. He's in the sun today. Kemi's passion knocks out too with a powerful piece lauding Kemi Badenoch, even suggesting she could be the Cameron of this race. Here we are, the Daily Express gambling on Kemi would strike fear into the heart of Labour. Theo,
she's got 40 votes and she is polling well ahead of where
keep left at the fork.
At the beginning of this race, but again, as I said, like Mordaunt, she is going places.
And wanting to be Prime Minister when you're a 42-year-old is by definition...
In a quarter of a mile, merge onto M4.
I am ambitious, but for our country and for our party. I chose to become a Conservative MP to serve, and I chose this country because here I could breathe free and I could be everything that I wanted to be. I grew up in Nigeria and I saw firsthand what happens when politicians are in it for themselves, when they use public money as their private piggy banks, when they promise the earth and pollute not just the air but the whole political atmosphere with their failure to serve others.
The leadership race, of course, dominated PM Keys in the Commons. There is, of course, next week, but this felt distinctly like Boris Johnson will miss it. This was his swan song.
Continue on M4 for 11 miles.
A mortgage-sized decorator's bill. There'll be soon for somebody else's flat. I'm not surprised he's careful not to upset any future employers.
Let me just tell him that any one of them will wipe the floor with Captain Crasherooni's snooze fest.
Nadine Zahawi, of course, fell yesterday. He only got 25 votes. Jeremy Hunt also fell with 18 votes, and he's now backing Rishi Sunak.
Well, I've given this a lot of thought. I'm supporting Rishi Sunak, and Rishi is one of the most decent, straight people with the highest standards of integrity that I have ever met in British politics, and that's why I would be proud to have him as my next Prime Minister.
Just a quick add-on, Nick, and staying with the front runner, Mr. Sunak, LBC has discovered his family's fortune has shrunk by more than 100 million in the last 3 months. So if he's having a bad day yesterday, he might want to look at the shareholding of which is held by his wife, Ashkausa Murty. She holds more than 38 million shares in Infosys, a company which was, of course, founded by her father. At the end of March this year, the value of those shares was a cool 700 million. But in recent months, the share price of Infosys has dropped from £19 a share to just over 15. That means he's worth just over, well, £590 million.
Does that mean he's no longer 222nd richest person with his wife in the country? Theo Usher would report him. We'll get the latest odds from Coral in just a second. But let's get to another savvy political watcher. Charles now Lord Moore is the authorised biographer of Margaret Thatcher. Edited The Spectator, The Sunday Telegraph and The Daily Telegraph, and indeed now serves as a columnist of both those titles. He joins me now. Of what you're seeing so far of the surviving 6, who's showing any appeal to you? Who might be the person, not just to lead the Conservative Party, possibly to lead the country? Good morning, Lord Moore.
Well, good morning, Nick. Forgive me for blowing my own trumpet, but Theo said that nobody mentioned Kemi Badenoch at first, but in fact I did in the column last week, which now seems a year ago, and I did because I think she is very remarkable and brave and is trying to sort of get to the bottom of the problems, and I think MPs are beginning to appreciate that, and that's why her vote was really pretty good for someone who's considered a rank outsider. That was a very striking aspect of yesterday's result.
Has she got enough stamina to go all the way, Charles?
Well, she's certainly got the stamina as a human being. Of course, the tendency of the system, which is fair enough, is to get rid of anybody at the side. You have to focus and end up with only two. So the chances must be against her. But she's the one who's moving forward in the most interesting way. Though obviously Penny Morton's also moving forward interestingly. I think that if MPs are looking for someone who can kitchen sink the problem, as they say in the city, and try and take things forward, she's looking very interesting. And personally, I would say that was not really true of Penny Mordaunt. She really announced a sort of nostalgia ticket in her pronouncement yesterday. Weren't things better in the good old days? Maybe they were, and maybe that will appeal to some of the Tory voters in the country, but it's not really the point, I think. The question is, which is very difficult for somebody in the top of the government like Rishi Sunak has been to discuss, is why are things so bad now and how do we get out of it?
Let me ask you this, the six with whom we are left, 4 women, 2 blokes, one of whom is not white. What does that say about the current state of the Conservative Party, Charles?
Well, it's really fascinating, and I think I've got nothing against my own race or sex, but I think that it's a very impressive achievement in the sense that the ethnic minority candidates who are so strong in this race are truly there on merit. Nobody could possibly say that they've been given special provision or they've been given a sort of a sort of ghetto out of which they can operate or anything like that. Quite the opposite. And they, on average, I would say, tend to be more optimistic than a traditional white conservative, because Kemi Badenoch, as Keir was explaining, she has a background where she's seen how bad leadership can go, and she believes that conservative leadership, having a strong state but a small one, it's the way to go, and she feels sort of good and strong about that in a way that old tired white men sometimes get too pessimistic about.
Finally, one white man from whom we heard yesterday, Boris Johnson, said, "I can leave with my head held high." That is being interpreted as that was the last PMQs we will see from him, at least in this life. Can he leave with his head held high, Charles?
Well, he made some terrible mistakes, but I think history will look much kinder on him than people looking on him in these weeks, because the achievement of leading Brexit in the referendum, becoming leader, getting proroguing, getting the election, winning it big, and continuing as Prime Minister as a result, and then achieving Brexit is actually basically a political miracle. And I don't think it's one that anybody else could have achieved.
Grateful for your time, thank you. Charles Now Lordmore, authorised biographer of Margaret Thatcher, former editor of The Spectator, The Sunday Telegraph, The Daily Telegraph, now columnist for both those titles, 7:15. Before we go to the news headlines, we are now, of course, 6 will become 5, so let's get the latest odds as to how they are faring. David Stevens, David Stevens, head of PR at Kroll. David, give us a tale of the tape. Morning.
Good morning, Nick. Yeah, well, it was yesterday the crucial day for Penny Mordaunt backers, because she started the day a second favourite behind 13-8 favourite Rishi Sunak. But what is widely perceived, we heard from Theo there earlier, she had a really good day yesterday, the Mordaunt campaign. She was made favourite yesterday afternoon, 13-8. And I've woken up this morning and checked in, and she is now odds on 4-6, 6-4 on favourite Penny Mordaunt. So political punter seem in no doubt that yesterday was a great day for Penny Mordaunt, and she now is the front runner. Her biggest rival, well, Rishi Sunak, I say, who was displaced as favourite yesterday. He's second favourite at 100-30. Liz Truss 4-1. They're the 3 front runners, certainly according to the betting. But a lot of talk there we've heard about Kemi Badenoch.
Yeah, if I wanted a cheeky punt on Kemi Badenoch, what am I going to get from Corals?
Yeah, she's at 20-1, so a relative outsider still, but lots of twists and concerns, I'm sure, still to come. The dark arts and switching votes, who's going to be supporting who. Now, we're going to get down to 5 today. Suella Braverman is a red-hot favourite, 1-7 to get the fewest votes today, so it doesn't look too good for her. But it really is all about this final 2, Nick. And at the moment, the final we think will be between Rishi Sunak, who's 1-5 to make the final 2, 5-1 on, and the same price, 5-1 on, Penny Mordaunt to make the final 2. So they are the 2 front runners at this stage, but you just know there are going to be more twists and turns. The dark art of Westminster take shape.
David Stevens giving to the odds heads of PR at Coral. 7:16 coming up after the news. A deal put forward to try and stop the strike on the rails. Rachel Venables.
Rail workers are going on strike again at the end of the month. MLBC's Rachel Venables at King's Cross Station.
Plus, whoever does become Conservative Prime Minister is going to have a heck of a concern about inflation to the US, where it's hitting a high of 40 years.
Hitting its highest level in, get this, 41 years. June's consumer price index shows inflation rose more than 9% from last year.
Sorry, I need to get this. 41 years, not 40. That was CNN. The 7:15 LBC news headline. Simon Conway.
Liz Truss is due to set out her pitch to be the next Prime Minister after coming behind Rishi Sunak and Penny Mordaunt in the first ballot of the Tory leadership contest. Millions of low-income households are to begin receiving a cost of living payment from the government, and the Met Police says it's investigating Sir Mo Farah's revelation that he was trafficked to the UK as a child. LBC weather, dry and sunny for many, some showers in the north, a high of 26 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm Anne-Marie Walsh. In Hackney, Marsh Hill is shut both ways. That's near to Homerton Road for a police investigation. 4 bus routes are on diversion as a result. In Greenwich, it's already looking very slow on the A102 northbound heading towards the Blackpool Tunnel, and it's queuing on the A13 into town from Dagenham all the way towards Barking. Also in Barking, the traffic lights are not working on Ripple Road at the junction with King Edward's Road. If you are heading that way, do approach the area with care. On the train, South Eastern and Thameslink have delays of up to 15 minutes between Dartford and Strood. There's a reduced service on Great Western Railway from Reading to Gatwick Airport, and a limited service running on London Tramlink from East Croydon to Wimbledon. That's all because of strike action.
The one and only sausage and egg McMuffin from McDonald's, with a freshly cracked free-range egg, perfectly seasoned sausage and oozing cheese.
Oh, that's proper good, that.
What he said. McDonald's, breakfast done properly. Served until 11 a.m, participating restaurants only.
This is LBC.
We are constantly bombarded by messages from all angles, here and far. Switching attention between smartphones and a billion distractions, it can be difficult to stay focused. Zeiss Smart Life lenses are designed to help your eyes better manage a world vying for attention from every angle, improving your field of vision so you can seamlessly shift your point of focus. In a digital world, isn't it time you saw the bigger picture? Zeiss Smart Life lenses, available at Boots Opticians.
Your NHS urgently needs you to give blood. We especially need people of black heritage to donate. Blood donation is quick and easy. If you already have an appointment, please keep it, or contact us to rearrange. If you haven't got one yet, then please book yours today. Visit blood.co.uk or get the NHS Give Blood app. Thank you for saving lives.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Call 0345 6060 973.
In 2 miles, at junction 3, take the A312 exit to Harrow, Hayes.
Kemi Badenoch in the running to be the leader of the Conservative Party, but if the Penny Mordaunt team are looking at this morning's newspapers, I would imagine they will be ecstatic, and indeed the websites too, because, well, their woman is all over the front pages. The Daily Mail, which I will take that first because obviously it's a key Conservative newspaper, or Conservative supporting newspaper, I should say. Unite now or we lose, Truss tells Tory right. But the big picture with the headline underneath, new favourite Penny. And there's a picture of a smiling and indeed waving Penny Mordaunt. I think the Daily, yes, here we are, the Daily Telegraph, which I think we'd all accept again is very much a Conservative leading newspaper. And there she is again, a very powerful picture with a great big thumbs up at her campaign launch yesterday. Mordaunt seizes the momentum after first Tory ballot. And here you go, the Metro again. Tinker Metro, I think it is the most read newspaper, obviously not the most purchased because it's free, but it is the most read newspaper in the whole of the country. And there she is, the lead story. PM for PM, a smiling Penny Mordaunt with a smiling Andrea Leadsom, by the way, former Minister behind her, supporting her. And here we are, the front page of the Eye. Mordaunt surge rattles rivals in race for number 10. And here we come to the LBC website, which is also telling the story. There she is, PM for PM. That's her slogan, which obviously works with their initials. And there's that picture again, smiling with her thumbs up. And it says, thumbs up for Mordaunt. She vows to crack down on evil and barbaric people smugglers. Slightly, no, here we are, the Times, I'm so sorry. Surge for Mordaunt in race to be Tory leader. Daily Express, again, that great big picture of her with the thumbs up. It's hotting up. Mordaunt surges in race for number 10. My gosh, even the front page of the FT has her smiling with the thumbs up. Wow, they have completely corned. They must be doing cartwheels over there. Wow. Mordaunt and Sunak lead fight to become Tory leader, but interestingly enough, the FT Financial Times continues to go with the picture of Penny. Oh, there we go again. The Guardian, pressure on Truss as Tory rivals steal march and leadership.
In a quarter of a mile at junction 3, take the A312 exit to Harrow, Hayes.
The Daily Mirror, very much a Labour supporting paper, but they attacked her as she's one of the leading candidates, but they say cost of living crisis. What cost of living crisis? They don't just smear her, by the way. They suggest all Tory PM hopefuls are paying no attention to the realities of life in modern day Britain, is their take on this. And lastly, the Sun newspaper, they call it the 6
exit at junction 3
left there, and even they reference it. Penny wins. Sorry, Rishi wins, but Penny.
In a quarter of a mile at Cranford Parkway interchange, take the 4th exit onto the Parkway, A312.
I know a lot of you have been fans of Liz Truss. I was struck on the first day that we were looking at this on Monday, the first day of this week, we were looking at this, how many of you supported Liz Truss for whatever reason, although we need to reference the fact that Liz Truss launches her campaign in full today, so that you imagine will give her a bit of a pick-up. We also, of course, need to reference the fact that, as we said earlier, Kemi Badenoch is still performing very well. 6 become 5. I would have thought we'd probably say farewell to Suella Braverman later today, but there's a continuing rise of Penny Mordaunt. I'll be taking your views on PM for PM. There's a slogan that might well become a reality. But that's after we look at the fact that the grim reality of a one-day rail strike, the like of which, I remind you, we talked about this at the start of the week, we won't have seen rail disruption like this since the days of the general strike back in the 1920s. That's right, the 1920s. And this because a deal just cannot be done. It is, as has been pointed out, will coincide and cause enormous disruption if you're trying to get to the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham. Let's go straight to LBC's Rachel Venables joining us from King's Cross Station, one of the busiest in London. Rachel.
Nick, the 27th of July is the date for your diary. That's 2 weeks on Wednesday. Also the day before the Birmingham Commonwealth Games begin, and that is when the next 24-hour rail strike has been called by the RMT union. Their members, rail staff who work both for various train companies and Network Rail, will be walking out again in this bitter, ongoing dispute over pay, job losses and conditions. Now, as you know, the last strike for 3 days last month ended up causing chaos for commuters across the country, and folks here at King's Cross this morning tell me they are already dreading the next one.
It will affect me hugely because I rely both on tube and train to get to work from Kent. I think everybody needs to wake up. There isn't the money there to give people the pay rises that they wish for, which is sad, but I believe that people just need to get on with it.
I work for the NHS, and I can't strike. I think I deserve more pay, and it's just like a never-ending circle, and it's just like the general public are always affected, and they just seem to get away with it every time.
It did affect my commute because I travel every day about 2 hours. Well, I understand what they're doing. I feel it's good for them, but it's bad for everyone else.
No, I think they're alienating the public. I mean, welcome to everybody else's life, really. When do we get the pay rises, and when can we go and strike? It doesn't happen. So yeah, it's too often, and it just causes too much chaos.
Exit the roundabout onto the Parkway.
Negotiations, the RMT say the train operating companies, Nick, haven't yet come up with a deal, a pay offer or guarantees over job losses. But Network Rail did come up with a plan.
Continue on the Parkway for 1 mile.
Stated 4% pay rise, plus another 2% next year, and then another 2% bump with conditions. The union, though, dismissed that as paltry. Here's the General Secretary, Mick Lynch.
We've not got any of the required movement that we would need to get a settlement. So our National Executive Committee, which governs the union, has rejected what's been put to them, and we've had to pursue further strike action to try and get to an agreement. So we're given a month to discuss these matters, and we'll give more time if the companies want to meet us to try and get a settlement. We're not rushing headlong into this. We've been quite careful. We got the ballot result on May the 24th, which is quite a while ago now, so we've not put that much action into it. We're giving plenty of time to negotiate.
Well, rail bosses have condemned the latest announcement of strike action. Tim Shoveler, the chief negotiator with Network Rail, he addressed MPs on the matter yesterday.
Great that we've seen leisure traffic return, but it was very obvious we had a problem and a big gap in the income of the railway. Government continued to support that and still does to this day. Our responsibility to that was to make sure that we worked with unions to identify how we could make the railway more efficient.
Well, to make matters possibly worse, Nick, the RMT has also said it's going to be talking to other unions who've also voted for strikes amid talk of coordinated walkouts, planning their strike actions for the same day.
Rachel Venables reporting your views concerning PM for PM, Penny Mordaunt for Prime Minister, or of course the extraordinary rise and rise of Kemi Badenoch. But let's go elsewhere, and I need to warn you in advance, you are going to hear some distressing audio now, distressing sound, and I apologise in advance. And a lot of you have expressed a lot of anger. You are going to hear the sound of the shooting at that school in Uvalde, Texas. Now, I've sort of people are saying, why didn't you do what they did on TV last night? Well, much as the best pictures you'll ever get are from the radio.
In a quarter of a mile of Wagoners Roundabout, take the second exit and stay on the Parkway A312.
They didn't play out the gunshots. I'm sorry, I apologise again, and I warn you in advance, we are going to. And then you're going to hear some rather strong language from some bereaved parents. But let's go first to that school and to the horrific moment when the gunman opens fire. This has been published in the States by the Austin American-Statesman newspaper. They have defended the idea to publish, saying transparency and unrelenting reporting is a way to bring change. We'll be hearing from a senior American journalist in just a moment.
Exit the roundabout onto the Parkway.
I'm asking,
continue on A312 for 1.5 miles.
They know will cause not just offence, but let's be honest, distress. His relatives of the children who lost their lives speaking after that footage was released. You'll hear from Felicia Martinez, Angela Garza, and Nikki Cross.
We're angry. We're very angry. And we want justice for our kids, and for this to be let out without us even being seen first. So to the person that leaked it, screw you.
Who do you think you are to release footage like that of our children who can't even speak for themselves? But you want to go ahead and air their final moments to the entire world. What makes you think that's okay?
We've been asking DA for this video for a while, and she refused to let us see it. Once again, the world got to see it before us, just like the day of the shooting when Governor Abbott announced to you all that our children were dead, and we had no idea. So it's like reliving that day all over again.
Should that footage have been released? To Dr. Peter Laufer, who is the chair in journalism at the University of Oregon School of Journalism and Communication, is a US journalist, broadcaster, and documentary maker, former speech show radio host. And if you want to know how speech radio works, be sure to read his book, because I did. He joins me now. Peter, had you been running this particular outlet, the Austin American-Statesman, would you publish material you know would distress grieving relatives? Morning to you.
And good evening to you from California, Nick. It is an extraordinarily difficult decision to figure out how to make. And I think in this particular case, part of the problem, if not much of the problem, is that the parents were caught unaware and did not have a chance to see and hear the material first. The broader issue past this particular case that we all need to wrestle with, I believe, Nick, is how do we balance showing something that is so grievous with trying to foment some change? Because if we do not realize as a public the reality of the horror past statistics, then perhaps the public can't make the move that is necessary in this gun-happy culture that we have, particularly here in the States. So if we separate out the specifics